The story begins with a young girl named Lucy joyfully playing outside with her father, James, in front of their home. In the middle of their fun, Lucy suddenly tells her father that she can see her grandfather, Jackson. This leaves James visibly confused as Jackson had passed away some time ago. Trying to comfort her, James gently reminds Lucy that her grandfather is no longer with them and suggests she might be imagining it because she misses him. Moments later, Lucy starts coughing, prompting James to rush her inside. Concerned, Lucy's mother Isabel checks her temperature and notices she's running a fever. She calmly tells Lucy that they'll need to visit the doctor the following day. As James steps out, Lucy shares with Isabel that she's been working on a storybook. She explains that the book includes a character she refers to as a sad man, but when asked who he is, Lucy simply says she doesn't know, only that she saw him in a dream. Isabel assures her daughter that she's there to help in any way she can, and then cheerfully reminds her that Christmas is just around the corner. Excited by this, Lucy asks if she can write on the family's Christmas countdown board, and Isabel happily agrees. Lucy writes the first number with joy. Meanwhile, James sits alone in his room, holding an old photo of his late father. Troubled by what Lucy said, he gazes out the window, half hoping to catch a glimpse of Jackson, but there's nothing there. Later that night, James checks in on Lucy before bed and notices her scribbling in her notebook. Curious, he asks her about the story. Lucy talks again about the sad man and says she believes that she and God will become friends with him. James doesn't fully grasp what she means, but he urges her to get some rest since she's still unwell. As he exits the room, an invisible presence lingers, unseen by James but very much real. After he leaves, Jackson, now a spirit, quietly appears and sits beside Lucy. She's overjoyed, calling him her best friend. Lucy tells him she's not feeling well, and Jackson gently encourages her to sleep. Elsewhere, James shares his concerns with Isabel, explaining that Lucy claims she saw Jackson. Isabel is puzzled too, especially after hearing about the mysterious sad man in Lucy's story. She expresses her concern, but James reassures her that everything will be all right. The next morning, inside a prison facility, a medical doctor informs a local pastor named Johnson that one of the inmates, Edgar, is facing severe kidney failure. The doctor emphasizes the urgency, stating that Edgar needs hospital treatment if there's any hope of survival. Overhearing the conversation, Edgar steps in, visibly unmoved by the news. Johnson explains that without a transplant, Edgar won't survive, but Edgar coldly responds that he deserves whatever comes. Johnson, however, believes otherwise. He tells Edgar that God offers second chances, and this might be one for him. Though Edgar appears to have given up on redemption, Johnson promises to speak with the prison warden and see what can be done. Meanwhile, Isabel takes Lucy to see a doctor who diagnoses her with pneumonia. He prescribes medication and assures them that Lucy should recover with rest and treatment. However, he warns that if the symptoms persist beyond a few days, they should return. Back at home, James calls his mother, April, and confides in her about Lucy's unusual claim of seeing Jackson. April is skeptical, but she admits that if Jackson were to appear to anyone, it would be Lucy. He loved her deeply, and they shared a special bond. She mentions that the house they're living in once belonged to her and Jackson, and perhaps his spirit has chosen to remain nearby. Though James still has his doubts, April gently reassures him not to worry, calling Lucy a truly special child. Elsewhere, Edgar is transported under guard to a local hospital for treatment. When the transport vehicle arrives, Edgar stubbornly refuses to step off the bus. One of the prison guards, Luther, grows impatient and attempts to force him out, but the warden intervenes, instructing Luther to give Edgar time and let him decide when he's ready. Eventually, Edgar does step down, but when asked to use a wheelchair, he initially declines, only to collapse moments later from exhaustion. Seeing he can't stand on his own, the guards help him into the wheelchair and escort him inside. In a private room, the warden informs Edgar that he personally approved the transfer for treatment, despite everything, because he believes people deserve second chances. Pastor Johnson, also present, offers Edgar a Bible, expressing hope that he'll open it one day. As they prepare to leave, both men wish him well. However, Luther lingers behind to deliver a quiet but menacing threat, promising Edgar that he won't leave the hospital alive. Dr. Stanswick, the physician in charge of Edgar's case, meets with the warden and Pastor Johnson shortly after. She explains that Edgar's treatment will be complicated. As a convict, his name will be lower on the transplant priority list, meaning there's little chance of immediate help. The warden acknowledges the difficult odds, but insists they still have a duty to follow proper medical protocols and give him a chance. He assures the doctor that Edgar won't be a problem. He'll be closely monitored at all times. To that end, he instructs guards Wally and Luther to keep Edgar cuffed to his bed around the clock, allowing him to leave the room only for scheduled kidney checks. Luther assures the warden they'll prevent any funny business, even tapping his holstered gun for emphasis. The warden, displeased by the gesture, reminds him that Edgar is physically weak and poses no real threat. With that, the group disperses, leaving Wally to begin the first watch over Edgar's hospital room. Back at home, James struggles to get Lucy to take her medication. Still sick and now increasingly resistant, Lucy refuses the pills. Jackson, unseen by James, is sitting nearby and jokes that James is now getting a taste of his own medicine, recalling how he used to reject pills as a child too. Lucy laughs and relays Jackson's comment to her father. James, confused and uneasy, insists again that Jackson can't be there. Lucy gently tells him he doesn't have to believe her if he doesn't want to. Soon, Isabel walks in and persuades Lucy to take her medicine. She also offers Lucy something to eat, and though Lucy initially says she isn't hungry, she eventually accepts, encouraged quietly by Jackson's presence. The next day, Lucy continues to work on her storybook, pouring her thoughts into its pages, but her health shows no signs of improving. With just 2 weeks left before Christmas, James and Isabel grow increasingly concerned. They agree that it's time to take Lucy back to the hospital. That evening, as they prepare to leave, Lucy asks whether she'll have to stay there. Isabel reassures her that it's just for a checkup, just to make sure she's doing all right. At the hospital, the doctor examines her and explains that further testing is needed to determine if her pneumonia has worsened. Though he remains optimistic, he advises them to stay cautious. Once he steps out, Isabel gently apologizes to Lucy for how unwell she feels, promising that both she and James will stay by her side through it all. A nurse soon arrives to take samples for testing and instructs Lucy to get some rest afterward. The following day, Lucy continues adding drawings to her book. James sits beside her, keeping her company, when Lucy tells him she dreamt of the sad man again. James gently asks if she knows who he is yet, but Lucy says she still doesn't, only that he needs help. Then, out of the blue, she asks if James can see Jackson in the room with them. James looks around and replies that there's no one there. Disappointed, Lucy asks why he doesn't believe her. James hesitates, then says he does believe her, but Lucy calmly tells him she knows he doesn't, though someday he will. Soon after, the doctor updates Isabel with some concerning news. Lucy's pneumonia has advanced, and she needs to be formally admitted to the hospital. While he assures her they'll do everything they can, it's clear the situation is becoming more serious. Just then, April arrives and embraces Isabel, who tearfully explains that Lucy's condition isn't improving. As Lucy is being transported to her hospital room, Edgar is being wheeled down the hallway for more kidney tests. By chance, their paths cross. The moment Lucy sees him, she asks her father to stop so she can get a better look. As Luther pushes Edgar along, Lucy stares at him and announces that he's the sad man from her dreams. She even pulls out a drawing to show James and Isabel. James dismisses the coincidence, but both Isabel and April are stunned. Lucy's sketch bears a striking resemblance to Edgar. Once Lucy is settled into her room, the attending nurse steps out, but James follows her. Curious, he inquires about the man they just saw. The nurse explains that Edgar is a prison inmate brought in for a kidney transplant. When James asks if there's any danger, she reassures him that Edgar is heavily guarded and under constant surveillance. She offers to have Lucy move to a different room if they're uncomfortable, but James declines, saying he was only asking out of curiosity. Later, Lucy has a brief video call with Isabel's father, Mike, who tells her he wishes he could be there. However, he's still recovering from recent surgery and unable to travel. Lucy and Isabel both tell him to rest and take care of himself. Shortly after, Dr. Stanswick enters to check on Lucy's condition. After speaking gently with her, she pulls James and Isabel aside for a private conversation. The doctor reveals that Lucy's infection has taken a serious turn. If her condition continues to worsen, there's a risk she could go into septic shock, something that could be fatal. Isabel, clearly shaken, asks if their daughter might die. Dr. Stanswick is careful with her words, saying it's only a worst-case scenario, but it's a possibility they need to be prepared for. Meanwhile, Edgar sits quietly in his hospital bed, staring at a worn photo of his family. When Luther comes in to take over the guard shift, he notices the photo and demands to see it. Edgar refuses at first, but eventually hands it over. With cold amusement, Luther mocks the picture and cruelly tells Edgar that he'll never see his family again. He then rips the photo in half and tosses the pieces back at him before leaving the room. Edgar stares at the torn photo, helpless and angry, but unable to do anything. That night, James urges Isabel and April to go home and rest while he stays by Lucy's side. Once alone, Lucy quietly says a prayer before falling asleep. Later, while James dozes off in the chair beside her, Lucy gets out of bed and walks out of the room. Wandering down the hallway, she encounters a hospital janitor named Bart. She introduces herself kindly and, noticing his gloomy demeanor, asks if he's sad. Bart admits that he is. Lucy smiles and tells him not to be afraid because God loves him. She promises to draw a picture for him and give it to him the next day. As she continues walking, Jackson appears beside her and gently asks where she's headed. Lucy replies that she's going to visit a friend. Jackson knows exactly who she means. She then asks why she always feels stronger when he's around. Jackson explains that angels bring strength to those who believe. He then reveals his plan to help her. He'll set off the alarm near Edgar's room to distract Luther, who is distracted playing games on his phone. Moments later, the alarm goes off as planned, and Luther steps away to investigate. Seizing the opportunity, Lucy slips into Edgar's room. Surprised, Edgar asks what she's doing there. Lucy simply replies that she came to be his friend. Inside Edgar's hospital room, Lucy tells him that she's seen him in her dreams, and that God revealed his face to her. Edgar, still emotionally distant, shows little interest, but Lucy isn't discouraged. She cheerfully says she'll return tomorrow so they can read the Bible together. Edgar half-heartedly tells her not to come back, but before he can finish, Luther, stationed nearby, hears Edgar talking. Alarmed, Lucy quickly hides as Luther enters to check on him. Seeing no one else in the room, Luther assumes Edgar is talking to himself and leaves. Once the coast is clear, Lucy quietly slips back to her own room unnoticed. The next day, Lucy struggles to breathe, prompting the nurse to place an oxygen mask over her face. Dr. Stanswick soon arrives and informs Isabel and James that Lucy's condition is deteriorating. While she'll be given stronger medication, her infection is progressing faster than they hoped. Later that day, James takes Lucy for a short ride in her wheelchair around the hospital. As they pass through the hallway, Lucy spots Edgar being taken for his routine tests. She insists James stop and speaks directly to Edgar, asking what's wrong with him. Edgar admits that both of his kidneys are failing and he's in desperate need of a transplant. Lucy turns to James and asks if she has 2 kidneys. When James replies that she does, she offers one to Edgar. Shocked, James explains that it's not that simple. She needs both of hers to stay healthy. As Edgar is wheeled away, James tells her to stop speaking to him. Lucy looks upset and quietly says that God loves Edgar, even if James doesn't trust him. That night, Isabel and April stay in Lucy's hospital room. As they fall asleep, Jackson appears and gently encourages Lucy to visit Edgar again. On her way, she encounters Bart, the janitor, and gives him the drawing she promised. Bart is touched by the gesture and thanks her. Lucy then sneaks into Edgar's room once more. This time, their bond deepens. They talk, pray together, and share a quiet moment. Edgar shows her an old photo of his family. He says they've likely given up on him, but Lucy insists that if he holds on to faith, they might come back. She then asks for his Bible, letting him read from it before telling him it's time for her to go. On her way back, she meets an elderly woman named Betty. Introducing herself warmly, Lucy tells Betty that God loves her too. When Lucy asks if she can see Jackson, Betty smiles and says she can, confirming to Lucy that she's not the only one. As the days pass, Lucy continues sneaking out at night to visit Edgar, and they read the Bible together. 4 days before Christmas, she meets another young patient and offers him a drawing with the same loving message: God loves you. On Christmas Eve, Lucy watches from a distance as Edgar's wife, Adrian, and his young daughter, Tiana, arrive at the hospital. Pastor Johnson has brought them as a surprise, explaining that Edgar doesn't know they're here. He goes in first and is moved to find Edgar quietly reading the Bible. Moments later, Adrian and Tiana walk in. Edgar is stunned and overjoyed. Seeing his family again for the first time in years fills him with gratitude and emotion. The next day, on Christmas morning, Lucy is surrounded by her family when she surprises everyone by telling Dr. Stanswick that she wants to give Edgar one of her kidneys as a Christmas gift. The room falls silent. She explains that Edgar is her friend and she doesn't want him to die. James turns to the doctor and asks if such a thing is even possible. Dr. Stanswick admits it is, under certain conditions. James and Isabel, overwhelmed, say they need time to think. That night, Lucy tells her father she's finished her book and wants to give it to Edgar. She asks James to accompany her. As they walk through the hospital halls, James is quietly surprised to see Lucy greeting other young patients, calling them her friends. When they finally approach Edgar's room, Lucy stops and tells James that Jackson is about to activate the alarm to distract Luther. Seconds later, the alarm goes off. James, stunned by the timing, begins to realize there might be more to Lucy's words than he believed, though he still can't see Jackson himself. Inside Edgar's hospital room, he lights up as Lucy and James walk in. With deep gratitude in his voice, Edgar tells James that Lucy has completely changed his life. He turns to Lucy and shares the good news. His wife and daughter came to visit him. Lucy's face beams with joy, and she tells him that God had shown her who he was through her dreams. Then, with great care, she hands him her finished book, a symbol of their unexpected but powerful friendship. James and Lucy turn to leave. Just before they get far, Lucy notices Luther's keys resting unattended on a nearby chair, while he continues arguing with a nurse over the mysterious alarm. Quietly, Lucy takes the key to Edgar's handcuffs and sneaks back into the room. She places the key within Edgar's reach, telling him that now he can free himself if he ever needs to. Then she returns to her room. Soon after, Lucy's condition takes a sharp turn for the worse. April, alarmed, rushes to find Dr. Stanswick. At the same time, Edgar begins reading the book Lucy gave him. Each page moves him deeply. Overwhelmed with emotion, he unlocks his restraints and quietly leaves his room, determined to find her. But when Edgar reaches Lucy's room, he finds nurses gathered around, trying desperately to revive her. Despite their efforts, Lucy is pronounced dead. Her parents are devastated, and Edgar is left in silent heartbreak, crushed by the loss of the girl who gave him hope and friendship. As the grief hangs heavy in the air, something extraordinary happens. James sees Lucy's spirit gently walking out of the room. He follows, stunned, and watches as she stands beside Jackson. Fighting tears, James pleads with her not to leave, but Lucy only smiles and waves goodbye. Then she turns and walks off hand in hand with her grandfather. In the days that follow, one of Lucy's kidneys is donated to Edgar, giving him the second chance he never believed he deserved. His health improves, and he eventually reunites with his wife and daughter, who welcome him back into their lives. Years later, James and Isabel are blessed with another child, a baby boy they name Alex. On a peaceful afternoon, James is outside playing with his son in front of the house. As he looks toward the gate, he suddenly sees a familiar sight, Jackson standing beside Lucy. Alex asks his father what he's looking at. James smiles softly and replies, "That's your grandfather and your sister." With a warm, peaceful expression, James watches as Jackson gently takes Lucy's hand, and together they walk away into the light.